When you're hunting for new clients for your MSP, you'll notice the sheer amount of lead gen tactics out there. Some of them are exciting and brand new. Some just seem as old as time itself. But so what? What's the one question you want to ask when introduced to a lead gen tactic? Yeah, that question you want to ask is, does this work? My special guest today is going to introduce you to an older way of finding clients for your MSP. He's going to explain why it still works and how you can beat the other MSPs who don't even know that this is still a thing.
I'm Eric Smith. I'm the president and COO of Incremental Media, and we're a 20-plus-year-old marketing agency that helps brands diversify their media mix into a lot of offline marketing channels that I'm sure we're going to talk about.
And yes, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Eric. Did you start the business yourself 20 years ago? Because for those watching this on YouTube, you seem like a pretty young guy.
No, yeah, definitely did not start the company. Our CEO started the company. He was CMO of a bunch of big marketing companies, before starting Incremental Media. But no, I joined 5.5 years ago, and I moved into the president and COO role in January. So relatively new.
Okay. That's reassuring. I was thinking I was going to have to improve my face cream so I could look as young as you do. So we're going to talk today about the non-sexy stuff. We're going to talk about the stuff that people were using in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, possibly even in the 1870s and 1880s and 1890s, because we're going to talk about the non-digital marketing stuff. Now, I'm going to put a caveat on this, which is I love the offline stuff. I see that the offline stuff, the value of it has gone up and up and up as digital marketing has got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think you and I are going to explore why that is the case today. But let's just sort of first lay out what do we mean when we talk about non-digital marketing? What kind of marketing tactics are we talking about?
Yeah, so for us, we call it offline marketing. People have different terminology for it, but that means basically anything that physically reaches another person from a marketing standpoint. So meaning, direct mail, people are most familiar with, right? You get a piece of mail that ends up in your mailbox. Or, if you're trying to reach a business owner, an MSP, getting that to be delivered to their office, ideally. But then there's also like shared mail. There's what's called package inserts. If you ever get a package, and then there's offers from other brands inside. All those things fall under our what we call traditional channels in the offline marketing side.
Yeah, and 25 years ago, that was marketing, wasn't it, really? That and placing adverts in newspapers and radio and stuff like that. So I appreciate you weren't doing marketing 25 years ago, but is there still a place for that kind of offline marketing today?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Our business, a lot of the brands we work with, of course, do the basic, search, social, that type of advertising. But for a variety of different reasons, those channels have gotten more challenging or more expensive than they used to be. So they're sort of coming back to some of those more traditional channels that they used to use, to your point, like 25, 30 years ago in an even bigger way. So a good thing for our business. But yeah, definitely a unique way, especially if you're trying to reach an MSP or somebody who's a way to break through the clutter. We're so ambushed with information in the digital age that receiving something physically is a great way to sort of break through the clutter compared to any of your other competitors that are just doing the typical digital advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a second, let's talk about some practical things that MSPs can do to try and reach business owners and managers in their area or then in their vertical. But I agree with you. As the amount of digital noise has gone up and the amount of junk mail that you actually physically get in your mailbox has gone down. I mean, if I think like 34, I'm a bit older than you, Eric, and 30, 40 years ago, you used to get tons of post every day or tons of mail every day in the mailbox, and there'd just be so much junk mail, right? And you hardly get any these days. So if someone does send you a sales letter or some kind of promotion in the mail, the actual physical mail, you're holding it like, look, you've got something. I'm just waggling a piece of direct mail that I actually had from my optometrist this week. It really stands out, unlike the email where it's one of 200 emails that you've had today. Do you think people are scared of doing offline stuff because it's difficult, time consuming and expensive? So it's almost like the complete opposite of digital stuff.
Sort of. I think it is a little bit intimidating for somebody who is more kind of versed in the digital marketing side, but at the same time, it's applying a lot of the same principles that you do in digital advertising, right? So, there's a data aspect, like who are you trying to target that fits the ideal customer profile that you're trying to reach? What's the format that you want to use to reach them? So what's nice about, I'll stick with like direct mail because that's the most kind of simple example. You get a lot of space to communicate your messaging, right? So like in a digital ad, you might have, a couple of sentences or something really kind of specific. In things like direct mail, there could be, catalogs. You can have a huge amount of space to sort of communicate what makes you unique. And, for MSPs that have, a service that costs a meaningful amount of money, like you can sort of afford the cost of direct mail because your cost to acquire a customer is probably higher than somebody who's selling, a consumer product like a wallet or something that's more of a lower ticket item. So it can definitely be intimidating. I think that's why people come to companies like us. But at the same time, it applies a lot of the same principles that, I'm sure MSPs are familiar with from doing their digital marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Let's make you earn your money. Not that you're getting paid to be on this podcast, but let's make you earn your place on this podcast. I'm going to set you a challenge. So pretend I own an MSP and I'm in a very crowded market. Doesn't matter whether it's a geographical or a vertical market, but there's lots of MSPs doing what I do. And I'm finding it really hard to cut through. SEO, search engine optimization, just isn't working for me because there's so many other people investing in it. I'm trying to build my email marketing list, but it's just taking time and everything just seems to take time. I'm struggling to get really good leads and therefore I've got no one to sort of follow up. So I come to you and I say, right, I want to do some offline stuff because no one in this marketplace is doing any offline marketing. Give us some ideas, some practical ideas of some things I could do.
Well, I'll give you a real example of what we do in our business. We're trying to reach other, marketing decision makers at specific companies. So similarly, we have a hard time breaking through, right, of people who just, search for different advertising channels and things like that. So what we've done is very specifically found a list of marketing decision makers. So you could do the same type of thing using, tools like HubSpot. We use a tool called seamless.ai that really helps us find contact information for different people that we want to reach. And then we mail them like an actual box with some package inserts inside. And we'll email them before, saying, hey, keep an eye out. We're going to be mailing you this package. Then we email them, hey, you should have just gotten the package. And then we should email them afterwards that says, hey, what do you think of the package we sent you? So we found that's a very successful way to break through the clutter and get extremely high response rates. I mean, like 10, 15% of people who we mail an insert to respond back and, have booked a meeting with us. And then obviously, it's our job to sort of close them from there. But yeah, that's like a good practical example of something we even do for our own business that has, helped us break through the clutter with some of the key decision makers that we want to reach.
That's really cool. And something like that, I mean, what kind of costs would that incur? And I appreciate you shouldn't just look at the cost alone. You should look at what's the return on investment at the end of it. And actually for MSPs, obviously tons of recurring revenue and they keep clients for 7 to 10 years. So, the average lifetime value of a client could be 100, 200,000 over a decade. But, for something like you've just described there, what kind of investment would you look? I'm kind of asking for a quote without a quote.
Yeah, no, I mean, what's nice is I'll continue with that example. We were just focusing on like 100 people. So we're not mailing thousands of things out. It's something you can even just do in your office yourself and then mail those types of things out. So basically we bought boxes. We had our team sort of put inserts of brands that we work with into that box and then mail that out. So think, let's use round numbers. Let's say it's $10 to get all of those things, built and then mailed and physically like reach a customer. A lot of times you want to do what's called marketing mail, not first class mail, because marketing mail is cheaper. First class is only if you need to get something in somebody's hands really fast. So 100 people, $10 to reach them. So it's like $1,000 essentially to do marketing. And you can do it on an even smaller scale if you want to. There's not at that level, there's not too many economies of scale of doing it at 10,000 people. So again, you want to reach that really specific person. So sort of focusing on that 100 to couple hundred people is way more worth it than spamming out thousands of these things to people that may not even really be the right customer for you.
Yeah, and actually for the average MSP, I think that's a very doable thing to, most MSPs have got 20, 30, 40 people that maybe they've met at events or they've had on their website, they've filled in a form and for whatever reason it's not gone anywhere. So I think that's a really smart way of doing a very small scale thing, either using someone like yourselves or, as you say, doing it yourself, just getting everyone in the office, just printing stuff off, doing boxes. It's a really smart idea. Okay, final question for you, Eric. What's the best piece of direct mail or the best kind of offline marketing thing that you've ever seen? Maybe it was something that was sent to you or you've seen in like an industry blog or something like that that's really made you think, oh, wow, that is amazing. Whoever came up with that is a genius.
Oh, man, that's a good question. I would say it's kind of a recent example, I guess, but we get a lot of mail, or I get a lot of mail, from Omaha Steaks. So it's more of a consumer example than a business example, but they've got this like massive picture of like a stack of burgers and steak on the front of the ad. And it says like get 12 free burgers is like their big offer on the top. So I don't know if it's the best marketing I've ever seen, but it's a really, really good example of like something that, you're reaching into your mailbox and you're pulling this stuff out, and that gets your attention for sure. So, not every brand has, the ability to put beautiful burgers or steak on a piece of direct mail, but doing something that's eye catching and, helps you stand out in the mailbox. I think that's maybe the lesson that the listeners can take from that.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant. Eric, thank you so much for your time. Tell us a little bit more about your business. So what exactly do you do to help MSPs, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So very short version, Incremental Media. Like I said, we're an offline marketing agency. So we help brands expand into those offline channels, right? Direct mail, shared mail, package inserts, like I said. And then we actually have a big focus of our business on podcast advertising. So helping brands advertise within podcasts, big or small. So it could be, a really niche podcast all the way up to, the Joe Rogans and the really big podcasts of the world. Yeah. So if you want to contact us, you can either just go to our website, incrementalmedia.com, and hit out the contact me button and fill out the form. You can email me at esmith@incrementalmedia.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Eric Smith, Incremental Media.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.